I said that in my Peter Scully video that I was not going to go back to that level of depravity, and I am still technically making do on that promise. I'm not going to be talking about any specific known instances of people being victimized. I am going to be discussing a space which, under our noses, could be victimizing a lot of people. I only say this because I know there are people in my audience who are particularly sensitive to this kind of stuff. And again, it's not Peter Scully levels of depravity, but that's also a very low floor to go beneath. But I have the disclaimer out of the way now, so let me just explain what's happening. Tumblr is still somewhat of a popular platform that a lot of people just use to meme, but there are a select few people who use it for more nefarious purposes. To put it flatly, there is an abundance of tags that people use in order to satisfy themselves, and they try to act on urges that I can only describe as pedophilic. There are tags such as the more infamous T33N, which has been blocked by Tumblr after they caught on to what that tag was being used for. In case you couldn't tell just by the nature of the tag was being used to advertise and distribute child content to people who were looking out for it. But given that there is a lot more of this video, you can guess that the blocking of just this tag does not fix the problem that is being seen on Tumblr. As I mentioned, there are many more tags under the radar, and a lot of sketchy things happen under them that aren't just limited to what I already said. Something that happens far too frequently is the advertisement of illegal pornography. Here we can see a listing of prices and items which, given the context already given, everyone can probably guess what the poster is getting at when they say they have files. A Cash App address is given below to any prospective payers who would want to buy any of these items. I censor names and addresses, not to protect the predators because I sincerely don't care about these people. I'm more doing it to avoid the harassment flag on YouTube's guidelines. An even worse effect would be if someone interested in this stuff just found out how to get it by watching this video, which would kind of be the opposite reason that I'm making this. An instance that happens far too often with this platform is, as I've mentioned, there are people who self-report as minors, and they advertise that they want to talk with adults, more particularly older adults. Hi, okay, so it's not the first time I've been here. Made an account like a week ago, but something went kinda wrong, but now I'm back. So yeah, DM me or whatever. New here, looking for friends. Let's chat. Any handsome older men want to chat? I'm very lonely and bored at the moment and would love someone to talk to. Hi, my name is she, her. I'm definitely 18. DM for my favorite number. I'm not sure how many people need that last post explained for them, but the girl in question's obviously not 18, and as I'm sure you can guess, the favorite number that a predator would get in the DMs would be her real age. It's probably obvious to a lot of you, but I only explain because a lot of posts under this forum do the same thing by duplicitously alluding to the idea that they're of age when they're not. And don't be mistaken, the predators are meant to know that they're not of age. That was only a couple of the posts that could be found under this tag, and they were found very recently at that, at least relative to the recording of this. I expect the length of time between the screenshots being taken and this video being uploaded to be around a month. I bring this up because the forums are constantly having posts added to them, which means the posts that I showed you are now in all likelihood buried by many others. Many minors trying to do what they don't know could be the worst thing for them in the long run. You've probably caught on to the fact that there are a lot of posts that are accompanied by a long string of characters that they call a session ID. A session for what, you might ask? Well, Session, as it turns out, is an encrypted messaging platform, and these IDs are how they bring people into chats, and then do what I'm sure you already can guess is happening. This is not to blame the platform Session for what is happening here, before any people who like Session get defensive. I personally do not think that unless proven complicit, that it would be fair to blame a large company for what happens away from the prying eyes of its own moderation. And of course, when I say complicit, that doesn't have to mean they actively endorse it. That just has to mean that they don't do enough to actually stop what's happening. I do, however, find the Tumblr people very sketchy in the fact that they know they need to go to a dedicated encrypted platform in order to talk to people. A topic I must also bring up for the sake of demonstrating just how depraved these circles get is that not only do the adults targeting minors make victims out of people, but they also get off on the idea that they're taking advantage of the vulnerable. Of course that's going to happen. That is in fact inherent to the predation. But what's even worse is that sometimes the minors are seen fetishizing their own victimization, and it disgusts me to try and understand what leads someone into that position. When they get hard when you call them a pedo, greater than. This should not be a hot take, but minors reveling in the fact that adults want to prey on them, in my opinion, likely comes as a result of abuse that they have faced in the past that warps their perception of what is acceptable. I am not saying this is the case for every single one of them. I do find it worrying how clearly vulnerable people are trying to throw themselves out there and be victimized, sometimes not even for the first time. I should of course clarify that when I say this, I by no means exonerate or justify the predators. The predators are disgusting people for taking advantage of those who don't know any better. And to be entirely honest, those who actually act on their urges deserve nothing but the worst. And it seems like we know that all this stuff is happening right here. But I should say that another sketchy aspect of this place is the nature of the tags themselves. The tags are made up of words that are very adjacent to the world of predators, but with letters swapped with numbers and symbols. Buried in the sea of hashtags that are straight up pedophile language is this hashtag pizza, and also this hashtag of the pizza emoji. I'm sure if you're on YouTube you already know what this means. I'm of course explaining anyways to even the one person in the audience who doesn't know what this means. It's become pretty ubiquitous across YouTube as a way for YouTubers to say the phrase child pornography. The reason would be that cheese pizza has the same initials as child pornography. An overlaying question on this entire thing would be, is this even real? To which, this isn't me just making a joke, but I do sincerely believe that this is real. I think that the level of obscurity on a website that, again, is still relatively popular but is nowhere near the most popular social media site, makes it enough to be suspicious. I can see the argument that the minors on this site are just honeypots in order to lure predators and get them in trouble, and I sincerely wish that that was the case. But I think that with the sheer amount of accounts there are advertising this, that there are too many, and reverse image searching the images that these accounts post lead to nothing. I should tell you that the images that these accounts post are completely legal. It's all fine, don't worry about me. I haven't downloaded anything of a suspicious nature. I don't doubt that just a couple of these are just honeypots, but I think that even if just a couple of these are honeypots, that would ignore the overall picture that even if half of these posts were being bait, impressionable minors can still stumble upon this and decide maybe they want to take part of this. The offers of Mega NZ files for sale, I also fully acknowledge could just be honeypots for predators, but it's impossible to know 100% without trying to buy, and Mega NZ doesn't have the cleanest reputation as a platform. Mega has been found in the past to be harboring child content, but instead of being advertised on Tumblr, it was being more advertised on Twitter. Mutahar of Some Ordinary Gamers already made a video about that, so if you're curious about that situation, I suggest watching his video on it. With that in mind, it wouldn't surprise me if this wasn't bait and Mega was still being used to trade such content. I will say I was half tempted to make an account and try and do a sting myself, but I realized that I'm not Mama Max, and that's a good thing actually. With stings like that, it almost always tends to just be someone acting out a hero fantasy, which is not something I have a plan of doing. Because even if I did get a predator's name, face, and all that, I would have zero clue of what to do with it. So even if everything went according to plan, I'd have nothing to do with it and society wouldn't be benefited at all. I wouldn't even be able to post it on here because the video would be taken down for harassment and doxing. A lot of videos will talk about this subject, and admittedly a past video of mine included, and they talk a lot about the suffering of others at the hands of predators. But what's far less likely discussed in these videos of how do we prevent stuff like this from happening to begin with. And it's not the only solution, and it's the solution that I think comes to everyone's heads, and that is to report them. And hopefully the site in question will take action. And that is, if they do, the truth is they can make another account and get back to it. And that's assuming, again, that they get reported to begin with. What needs to be done is to go to the source with this issue. And that's where I need to disclose that this video was not a partnership, but a collaboration with Evelyn of preventcp.org, which is a website that contains resources that people who are survivors of sexual assault, child sexual assault, and also people who suffer from pedophilic thoughts can go to for help. I have it down in the description for anyone who fits under those categories. I of course anticipated that when I said that people should get help, I would need to draw a distinction between those who can be helped and those who aren't able to be helped. I think those who aren't able to be helped are those who have already victimized kids. I think those people, we can do away with them. I think those who haven't done anything yet are not predators yet, and that's why we should get them help before they actually become predators. And I of course anticipated the question of where one is even meant to get help. And that's why I have this collaboration here, because we can talk all day about what these predators have done, but what we discuss much less is how do we prevent this from happening. Data seems to show that people who purchase child content go on then to actually assault children in the real world. So if we can prevent them from even acting on their urges of going to a website like the Tumblr ring in the first place, then that would be one person who isn't assaulting kids, who would most likely end up doing so had no intervention been done. I've already said that my main goal was not to expose individuals, but to bring awareness to rings like this that cause exploitation, to bring awareness to a more systemic issue that enables behavior like this. Because going after the individuals themselves is nice, but it doesn't do much unless you're trying to target the systems that enable it. I know this was a pretty horrible video in its subject matter, and I want to give a thank you to those who are willing to hear me out on this. And I sincerely want to give a thank you to Evelyn for bringing this to my attention. This video would not have happened without her and her work over at preventcp.org. I can't promise I won't make a video like this ever again, but if something of this nature is brought to my attention, I will feel the need to bring awareness. And it's okay if you feel the need to skip it in the future. But I do mostly plan to talk about horror/true crime topics from this point. And as for the future of this channel, the next couple months I'll be more productive with content making because school has ended for me, at least until it starts back up again in the fall. So expect more streams and maybe videos to come out more frequently.